I always feel like the most unhealthy thing someone can say is, I'm having a cheat meal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like having the connotation that I'm cheating is like, are you really though?
Yeah, no one has been morally harmed. The IRS isn't coming for you. You
Right.
cheated in no meaningful respect. I'll say I can see this from both sides. On the one side, the side you're coming from, I 100% see that. Considering meals as good or bad, staying on plan versus cheating is a kind of moralization and pathologization of food consumption, which is like a strange flex and also might lead some folks on some end of a spectrum to not so healthy of a relationship with food.
Yeah.
That's forgive me, it's all jokes, but kind of like the Catholic relationship with like sex, for example, or the Roman Catholic mobster's relationship to crime, like very good and evil, but you can always go and tell your sins and everything's good after that. And so that is a big downside for sure. But there's also some truth to that idea that if you are a person who is, as a free agent in the world, navigating what's called the food environment, then it may be a helpful heuristic for you to consider meals on two ends of a spectrum. One end of the spectrum, whereas you eat most of your meals, are going to be what I like to call business meals. Like,
Right.
It's strange to see someone in the morning before a day of work put down like a bunch of donuts and dip them in chocolate sauce. Like, you preparing for work by doing that? So it's like most of the meals of the week and of the day are meals that fuel you and restrain your hunger and are super healthy and have nutrients. And so just, lots of veggies, fruits, whole grains, lean meats, healthy fats, all that other stuff. And then, because you're eating like that most of the time, you can get to a very low body fat and body weight level as kind of your settling point, because like, that's why 1950s people looked slim, because like that's kind of all they ate. There just wasn't a ton of convenience food around. And then what I like to say is, on sometimes, whatever occasion you see fit, you can go into the other side of the spectrum, which is anywhere between just more of the same healthy food you like, all the way up to quote unquote cheat foods, which is high palatability, low nutrient density, micronutrient density, high calorie density junk food, right? Junk food is absolutely a real thing, and it's probably a thing you shouldn't be eating all the time. And so in that respect, when people say like, I'm trying to be good, I don't like the moralization, but at the same time, I understand where they're coming from. Like, okay, you're trying to make better than worse choices.
Right.
And for most times in most places, for most meals of the day, people should be eating those business meals. But every now and again, you're like, get macros. I'm getting pizza. Pizza's going to have all the macros in it anyway. And then that's super awesome time to just kind of let it go. If you're doing the fluid approach the whole time, it's awesome to do when you're not burdened by hunger and food cravings. As soon as hunger and food cravings come in, then your ability to make good choices in this food environment that offers you so much temptation, it gets a little tough. And you might be like, well, my body does kind of need Cheetos right now. I can put them into the macros. Sure, you can stuff Cheetos into your macros, but it's just going to cause you a lot of hunger and misery later when you realize you dunked all of your food into something that barely filled you up. So there's kind of, I think, a push and pull there.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, 100%. I think that it's the idea of, do you know where to insert that versus, and to your point, having those meals around it that are business meals makes it a lot easier to have a couple of slices of pizza, I think, versus have an entire pizza because maybe you didn't eat for 8 hours or something like that, which maybe gets into more of a fasting thing.
Totally.
I want to ask you as well, something I've noticed, and I don't know, you bring up a really great point, a terrific point about, having a poor association with food. I feel like body dysmorphia today is not a new thing, but I feel like for men, either they're talking about it more, or I feel like I see it more with men as well today. Am I on point there, or am I off?
I'm not sure. I love these kinds of questions, and I get them quite often, but what I'll say is, short of looking at comprehensive surveys of the American public, which themselves are a little off because the only people that will do the survey are people that agree to do surveys. I just don't know anyone personally who will spend 30 minutes on the phone talking to a pollster. But that kind of comprehensive data will start to show you like what is the trend of body dysmorphic behaviors or attitudes expressed by males age 18 to whatever, as compared to 5 years ago and the 5 years before that, and so on and so forth. There's this other thing where what you think is going on is so, I don't want to say tainted, but altered by your algorithm and your media stream, that assuming that your algorithm presents you with a kind of a holistic view of the world is just like, it's literally wrong. And by design, your algorithm is designed to promote only one thing to you, content you seem to like to watch or consume. And it's a very good algorithm, is very, very, very insightful. And so we all get a real biased look at the world, some less biased than others, but you have to kind of go out of your way to try to get an eclectic view. And so when people say body dysmorphia is on the rise, or ask, is it on the rise, I'm actually just not aware of the literature on that. Now, that there's certainly some literature on it. It's not my exact specialty, so I haven't perused it in a while. But even if the literature says it's rising, a lot of that sort of comes from the artifact of asking people questions in more detailed manner, kind of finding the people that would have otherwise not been found. That all being said, so it's a giant mystery cloud for me as body dysmorphia is going up or going down or whatever. But I will say that it's probably easier to get a little bit dysmorphic if a few things happen around you at the same time. One, there's a fraction of the population you're exposed to that is in really good shape. Two, you're not in very good shape yourself, which is statistically more and more true for more Americans all the time. And lastly, if you are, if the algorithm by your selection of what you wanted to see is kind of showing you a lot of exotic fitness content. We do know that human brains were not designed for the technological revolution, and thus at a deep psychological level of deep inference and learning, your brain can't tell apart your Instagram feed from the real world around you. It's just more data stream, and it just all goes to the same place.
That's so scary.
Yeah. And so if you just see super jacked, super lean people all the time, and if you're listening to this podcast, there's a high probability that your Instagram feed is curated towards at least your marginal fitness interests.
Right.
You're going to see a lot of bodies, and here's the real messed up thing. Most people only, or very, very highly mostly, post their very, very best content. Some
like
of
highlight
it
reel.
altered with highlight reel. Some of it altered with Photoshop too. And the Photoshop's not even a big deal. Even if Photoshop just didn't exist, it is because a lot of people just their best lighting, their best angles, their best everything. And I am absolutely a person who does that as well. So you start to think, man, everyone just looks like this all the time. Now you see yourself in your full glorious splendor naked every night before you shower in the mirror or whatever.
After you've eaten all day?
Even all day. You can look at yourself naked anytime.
I meant after you've eaten all day and you're not like that.
Oh, after you've eaten all day. Yes, totally. You're bloated, you're distended, and all this other stuff. And so you're looking at yourself, and now your sort of heuristic understanding, your inferential kind of gut feel about what people look like is something that's been modified heavily by social media or curated heavily and biased heavily. And then the actual you is the actual you all the time. And you can't really hope to compete with that. And then so you look at yourself, you look at social media, you look at yourself in the mirror again. Is that a recipe for body dysmorphia? For most people, no, because most people don't have tendencies for body dysmorphia. I'll tell you this, there's a much bigger quote unquote problem in America of people giving any shit whatsoever about what they look. That kills way more people than body dysmorphia, causes way more suffering. However, some people who are a little bit more at risk for various other neuropsychological and genetic proclivities, that's a perfect storm. And that will hit them very hard, and it's very, very difficult to get your head above water in that regard. So to make a very long professorial explanation much shorter, for some people out in the world, this is the worst time ever to be subject to body dysmorphia.